everybody. Once again, here we are ready to have a new interview. It's been a little while, but it's nice to be back. This time I'm going to be interviewing another friend of mine from the US. You will be hearing from him in a minute. So here we go. I hope you enjoy.
Este video es presentado por Avenida Digital. Avenida Digital te ayuda a digitalizar tu negocio. Si lo que buscas para tu agencia inmobiliaria es captación concreta de clientes potenciales, captación de propietarios o incremento sustancial de tus operaciones inmobiliarias, Avenida Digital tiene la solución. Avenida Digital hace que tu negocio inmobiliario no tenga techo.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
hey, hello. How are you, Joshua?
Really good. How are you, Matthias?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good that I can call you Joshua now. It feels a little strange
Exactly.
after calling you Elder Seals for so long.
Exactly.
How are you?
I'm doing really good.
I'm excited that you had in mind the idea of doing this interview. You've remembered and that you asked me. It's an honor for me.
Me too. I mean, I only learned Spanish because of you.
Oh, come on. I appreciate it. I'm already recording, so
Okay.
we can just go with it, all right?
Okay.
So, well, I know some things about you, but because people are going to be watching this, maybe we can let them know a little bit about you, where you're from, how we met, where and where you are now, right? Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to explain that?
Yep. In
Okay.
English or Spanish, which do you prefer?
No, in English. This
Okay.
time in English.
Okay. So I'm Joshua Seals, and I was serving a full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Argentina Buenos Aires North Mission. And my first area in that mission was in the stake of Zárate, which includes San Pedro. And when I was serving there, I didn't know any Spanish when I first got there, and I was feeling kind of stressed. And I remember we were talking to some random guy on the phone. I don't remember who he was, or I didn't know who he was at the time. And then I said, "Oh yeah, my name is Joshua Seals, Elder Seals." And he said, "Seals, like focus and English." And I was like, "Man, this guy, how does he know such good English? Like, does everybody here know English?" And then I met Matthias because he was the guy we were talking to. And then we started meeting a couple times a week on Zoom, or it was on Google Meets. As he was doing with his students, he was doing a class with me, and then eventually grew to some other missionaries too. And he was helping teach us Spanish, and we were helping some of the other Latinos learn some better English and practice with us. I am now back home in my home in Texas, which is where I was living before my mission. And then I'm going to be going to Brigham Young University, where I'm studying global supply chain management. I'll be going up there in about a month and a half.
Nice. Well, that was a good, very good summary of the whole story. So thank you for that. That was very clear. So you've been back home how long? Pretty recently, right?
Yeah, so it's been about 2 months now, I think. Got home at the end of April.
Right. And you said that soon you're going to be studying at university and you're going to be studying what?
Global supply chain management.
What is
So
that?
it's
What is that about?
Yeah, it's kind of a long name.
Yeah.
It's a business degree, and it's about how we move things or get things from one place to another. So sometimes we call it like systems efficiency, how we do things better, faster, more efficiently. And then sometimes we call it like the business of business, how businesses actually do things.
That's impressive. And it
Thank you.
sounds very interesting. Actually, I don't think I've ever heard about that before. Is
Yeah,
it
so
common?
it's not a super common, it's like kind of a subside of business, and BYU has this a really good business school, and it's kind of a new program for them to have global supply chain, and especially here in the United States, at least, and kind of all over the world. Since the pandemic, there's been a lot of supply chain issues, and so it's kind of increasing in demand of having people who actually studied it and actually know a little bit about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Am I wrong? Or when we met, you mentioned something about studying law, maybe?
Yep, so that's also true. So my kind of plan is I have about um, a year and a half to 2 years left of business school. So I studied a little bit before I went to Argentina. And my plan is after the 4-year business degree, which I'll finish in 1 or 2 years, to go to law school, which is another 3 years. Because my kind of end goal is to be like a business lawyer and help like businesses figure out how to best, plan and strategize.
That sounds really, really interesting. And maybe people are thinking that you must be around like 30 or something, talking about all this, but how old are you now?
I'm actually still 20. I'll turn 21 in like a month,
Really? That's
but I get that a lot.
yeah, right? Yes, you always seem to me like a very mature kind of person, you know? And when we first started talking, you were 18, right? 19? No,
Yeah, I think
18.
so. Or I had just turned 19. It was around there, but
Exactly, exactly. But well, you served your mission, as you said, here in Buenos Aires, in the Buenos Aires North mission, right? Um, when we first started talking, your Spanish was still, in the process of, becoming
oh, you can
good.
say it. It was bad.
No, that was not bad.
I could
uh,
introduce myself, but I couldn't understand what you said bad.
yes. Why didn't you say a little bit about that? How was because this is mainly about that, right?
Mhm.
Um, people experiencing learning a language and how that was for each one of you, right? Each one of us, because I'm also learning a language. I'm still learning English, and it never ends. It's
Yeah.
a never-ending process, which is good in the end because it feels nice to be able to be learning something that you like, um, basically forever, right? So, what was it like for you to learn Spanish here in Buenos Aires? What was it like?
Well, so I guess, I had a little bit of training first. So I'm from South Texas, and there's a lot of, Spanish speakers here. And so I guess like the accent and things like that, I understood like kind of the differences, some of the theory behind it, but I'd never put it into practice. So I didn't have as much of the skill and ability. And then I did the missionary training center online through Zoom, but it was based out of the Mexico MTC. And so then I learned and I heard, their accent. I was like, that's different than what I've heard, but I guess, maybe that's the more correct Spanish. And then I kind of forgot everything and moved to Argentina. And then I get off the plane and we met with Leopoldo Zuniga. And I was like, this guy's not speaking Spanish. This is not what I learned, in Mexico or in Texas. This is nowhere near it. And, by the gift of God, we were able to communicate a little bit, and he was able to explain some things to me. Uh, but then in reality, it was, really a lot of pressure on me because I felt like, well, I have so much I want to say, so much I want to do, but I don't, know how to express myself. There was one time I remember I like had injured my finger or something, and I was like, I don't even know how to ask for help. I don't even know the word,
Wow.
right? And it was like really stressful, being in this place, and it's like I don't know quite like I could say, oh, it hurts, right? But I don't know how to like they ask questions of the doctor like, how'd you hurt it? I don't know. And so then as the Spanish slowly came and I was able to practice with you, practice with others and use it more, then I began to be more confident in it. And then I mean you probably remember as well that then we had a little change up in our assignments and I was with someone who was learning English for the first time as well and was a native Spanish speaker with Octavio. And we were, and it was really great. Then I got to practice a ton and with Caden and all that. And then whenever I moved on to another assignment, then I kind of stepped up. They needed me to help like translate things and read documents and stuff and translate them between English and Spanish. So I kind of saw the building blocks where it went from being like stressful, like I would, feel so incompetent to a point where now I use Spanish more than once a week in my job here in Texas in the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
So that is really great that Spanish is still part of your life.
Exactly. Yeah. Here I work as like a projects manager. So I work at a local nonprofit and I kind of all the special projects that they do when they get funding to change something, I kind of oversee that change. And a lot of the times that means I have to explain the change to people. And I'll have, these parents of these children come in asking like, well, how does this new system affect me? Or how does this, and their English isn't the best. And I can kind of pick up on that because I can see the signs that I had. Right. And then
Exactly.
And then sometimes they'll mention, "Oh, sorry, my English isn't that good." I'll be like, "Hey, if you know Spanish," and a lot of the time they look at me a little weird, like, "Does this gringo really know Spanish?"
They don't believe
And
it.
then I start talking, and they realize that yes, I do.
Yeah, yes. And you got a pretty nice level of Spanish right here because we got a chance to talk before you left.
Yeah,
And you really got a good level of Spanish. You know, you
thank you.
basically have a regular conversation about anything, which is amazing, right? And I
Yeah, I
remember
just need
that.
to practice like medicine and stuff. My brother's in pharmacy school here in
Oh,
Texas, and one
huh.
of his electives is Spanish in pharmacy. So him and I
Wow.
will practice, and he's trying to like learn. I'm like, man, I get all this business and finance and politics and stuff, but medicine, I'm still a little iffy on.
Yes, well, as I said before, you can continue learning a language forever. You never end. And when you go to specifics like that, medicine, technology, or whatever, it never ends. There's a lot to learn. You know? Um,
Exactly.
I think it would be amazing if we talk about something else, but this time using Spanish, so that you know viewers can witness the
Okay.
level of Spanish you got, which is I know it's really great. What could it be about? Your family maybe? Or no, why don't you explain in Spanish, if you have like some experiences or specific examples of the things that confuse you a little bit, about Spanish, or anecdotes, or what would you say was the hardest part about learning Spanish specifically? You know,
Okay.
anything about that, but do it in Spanish this time.
Okay, okay. Entonces, en realidad para mí, como una cosa que es un poco raro, como yo dije en el parte en inglés, es la diferencia entre los acentos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, ahora estoy trabajando con una mujer y ella habla español muy buena, pero ella tiene un acento como un medio mexicano, medio gringo. Y es como, cuando estoy hablando con ella, obviamente tengo un acento un poco más castellano, porque eso es donde yo aprendí. Y es un poco difícil porque a veces ella dice una palabra y para mí no tiene ningún sentido, no significa nada. Y ella, como para ella es algo común. O, en el otro día estábamos hablando en nuestra oficina que compartimos, tenemos un banco para sentarse. Y ella estaba explicando algo en español a una mujer en nuestra oficina. Y ella, oh, puede sentarse en esa silla. Y yo dije, silla, eso no es una silla, es un banco. Y ella dijo, no, un banco es donde está el dinero. Y yo dije, eso también, pero los dos. Y después de eso estábamos hablando de diferentes palabras que tienen como dos sentidos también. Por ejemplo, manzana como fruta y manzana como en una ciudad.
Sí.
Pero en realidad no usamos esa palabra mucho en Argentina porque decimos más cuadra cuando estamos en la ciudad. Manzana es más como una manzana en una villa o una como pueblo, no en una ciudad. Pero en México, obviamente, usan un poco más de la palabra manzana.
Ujú.
Y entonces, como la diferencia entre cada país, cada como localidad tiene un poco diferente acento, un poco diferente uso de las palabras y todo. Entonces, cuando estamos como hablando con diferentes personas, necesitamos tener en mente que van a usar diferentes palabras que nosotros,
Sí,
pero no es como malo, porque todos pueden,
no.
como usted dijo, estamos aprendiendo.
Sí, sí. Cuando estoy enseñando inglés y a veces surgen aclaraciones como, cuidado porque esta palabra dicha por un británico se va a llamar así, y en inglés americano lo van a llamar de esa otra manera. eh, a veces la reacción es como, uy, qué complicado, ¿por qué a la misma cosa le llaman diferente? Bueno, no opinemos porque nosotros somos 10 veces peor, porque incluso
Sí,
sin salir de Argentina cambiamos un poquito de lugar o de provincia y ya la misma cosa se llama distinto. eh, ni hablar si hablamos de comparado con otros países, ¿no? Eh, a veces es impresionante y español es terrible con eso. una misma cosa se puede llamar de muchas maneras diferentes según donde estés.
Sí.
Yo creo que inglés le pasa, pero no creo que le pasa tanto, por lo que yo veo, ni cerca de lo que ocurre con español, ¿no? Está bastante más uniforme en inglés, pero hay diferencias también.
Y con eso también, como una cosa en mi mente, es algo que usted me dijo hace como 2 años, cuando estábamos hablando de como necesitamos hablar, no importa si es perfecto o no. Y
Ujú.
para mí es lo mismo en inglés. Cuando estaba con amigos y ellos estaban aprendiendo inglés, cuando hablan, entendemos. Para un nativo es más fácil de entender que como los extranjeros piensan, ¿no?
Ajá,
Yo puedo entender como inglés como que es un poco medio medio, mejor que piensan. Y estaba pensando de eso porque a veces decimos como algo en español y no sé si es 100% correcto, pero más que nada es
claro,
importante para decir, ¿no? Por
sí.
ejemplo, hay verbos que todavía no entiendo 100% de las normas cuando usan, como las reglas. Y por ejemplo, el otro día estaba hablando con mi hermano y él usó la palabra traer en vez de llevar. Y
Ujú.
yo dije, oh, no, no, es incorrecto. Y él dijo, ¿cómo que es incorrecto? ¿Cuál es la norma? Y yo dije, ni idea, pero está incorrecto. Es llevar en este sentido. Traer es más como eso. Y es como eso, como el idioma no es una cosa como 100% exacto. Más que nada necesitamos escuchar y usar como en el método que tiene sentido, que
Exacto,
podamos entender.
exacto. Hablando de eso, lo que estaba pensando mientras te escuchaba, de la capacidad de entenderle al otro, en este caso, escuchando vos a alguien hablando en inglés, con un inglés que no sea perfecto y tu capacidad de poder entenderle de todas maneras. También es verdad, hay un montón de, no sé cómo llamarlos, hay como videitos que hace la gente imitando o simulando estas situaciones de un latino hablando con un gringo, como decimos, eh, y a veces se representa que el americano o el de habla inglesa no le entiende hasta que lo pronuncia perfecto, ¿no? Pero creo, mi opinión, esta es mi opinión muy personal, creo que cuando ese americano tiene un poco de experiencia en otro idioma, como sería tu caso, sí es mucho más abierto y tiene como, no sé, destrezas que están desarrolladas y les ayuda a entender o ponerse en lugar del otro y quizás
Sí,
transformar esa palabra maldicha y suponer que es lo que quiso decir. eh, Quizás no es tanto así cuando ese americano habla solo inglés y nada más, y no conoce otro idioma. Eh, se abre un poco la mente y las capacidades cuando uno incorpora un segundo o más también idiomas, ¿no? Eh,
exacto.
pero debe ser reconfortante que digas esto a los alumnos. Aún si no es perfecto, es posible que se comuniquen, se den a entender. Siempre hay que dar lo mejor y hablar lo más claro que nos salga, pero sin ese trauma de que si me voy a equivocar de los tiempos verbales, o en la gramática, o en el sonido perfecto, eh, porque si no nos bloqueamos y no nos animamos a hablar. A vos te habrá pasado, estando acá tenías que hablar con la gente.
Exacto.
Era ya en ese momento tenías que empezar a hacerlo y comunicarte y hablar con los argentinos, de la mejor manera que se pudiera, ¿no? Y en
Y
general,
es
la
una
gente, quiero
manera
decir,
para entender como la cultura, ¿no? También,
claro,
como cuando estamos hablando en su idioma, es más fácil entender su perspectiva, su punto de vista.
ujú,
Cuando estamos hablando de mío, es más fácil hablar de mis cosas acá.
claro, claro. Siempre sale estos temas de que se combina con la cultura, lo del idioma. Inevitablemente se relaciona con la cultura. Hablando de cultura, ¿te llevaste algunas características de nuestra cultura para tu
Oh,
vida en los estados? ¿Alguna cosa?
eh,
¿El mate?
entonces, tengo, no
Sí.
tomo mucho,
Ok,
solo porque no me gusta el sabor mucho, pero
ok,
tengo
sí.
diferentes yerbas y algunos mates, y mi familia todos le probaron. a nadie le gustaron mucho, pero
No me sorprende porque pasa eso. Sí.
no, en realidad es como es.
El primer
Pero,
impacto generalmente, a veces la gente empieza a gustarle cuando sigue intentándolo.
exacto, y para mí como no es, como era peor antes y ahora es mejor, pero todavía no quiero como tomar mucho. La cosa que tengo mucho es alfajores de Habana.
Uh.
Llevé como, ¿cuántos? Era como 60
A ver, ahí sería llevé o traje.
alfajores de Habana
Llevé o traje.
oh, traje
Claro,
de, sí,
de Argentina hacia donde vos estás.
exacto, sí, sí, sí. Y tengo de 70% cocoa y todo eso, entonces mi familia está. En el principio no querían decir como nada, pero después todo probaron y le gustaron mucho. Y ahora no tengo ninguno, pero
Qué
tengo mucho
loco.
de dulce de leche todavía para hacer
Bien.
diferente pasteles o todo.
Algo que puedas cocinar que sea típico de acá.
Entonces, en mi estaca acá donde vivo, hay una familia y ella es argentina
Ajá.
o media argentina y todas las navidades ella hace como milanesa de pollo. Y yo dije, eso es una de mis comidas favoritas de Argentina. Y dije, bueno, vamos a hacerlo como en agosto antes que se vaya a BYU. Entonces, yo dije, perfecto. Y en realidad nunca hice en Argentina como de todo. Compré las milanesas y
Qué
cociné, pero
rico.
nunca como hice todo de todo con el polvo.
Ujú.
Pero ella va a hacer todo y voy a estar para
Sí, por
probar y todo.
supuesto. No va a ser muy difícil si vos querés probar de hacerlo. O sea,
Sí,
es
exacto.
bastante
Y la
sencillo.
chapo torta también, yo hice muchas veces en
Chocotorta.
Argentina. Sí, cuando estaba viviendo en Tigre hice como una cantidad de veces y ahora quiero hacerlo, pero necesito encontrar todos
Los ingredientes.
chacolinas, no sé si tenemos acá, pero necesito encontrar algo
Si no
otro,
tienen
si no.
chocolinas, deben tener algo parecido, seguro.
Sí,
Seguro. Alguna galletita de
creo que sí,
chocolate deben tener seguro. Aunque no sea de la
pero
misma
no es
marca.
real sin los chacolinas.
Pero habrá algo parecido que pueda reemplazarle, seguramente.
Sí,
Sí, sí. Bueno, tu español sigue estando muy bueno, así que me
gracias.
parece excelente que en tu trabajo puedas usarlo, que te esté sirviendo para eso. Y esa es otra realidad también que está bueno saber. Eh, Creo que hemos crecido en Argentina escuchando que cuando uno aprende inglés aumentan las posibilidades laborales, así como de otras cosas también. Pero creo que también hay otra realidad y es que en el caso de ustedes también cuando le suman un idioma, muy particularmente español, también es un idioma que pueden aplicarlo y les puede abrir otras puertas en lo laboral y quizás en otros aspectos también. Y es buenísimo saber que ya, aún recién llegado de vuelta a los estados, eh, ya estás trabajando y en tu trabajo el español tiene un papel importante también, te sirve, lo puedes usar y eso es muy lindo saberlo también. Me imagino que se siente lindo también, como, ay, qué bueno que sé español ¿no? Y lo puedo usar.
Exacto. Cuando yo llegué, estaba pensando, bueno, ¿qué voy a hacer para como retenerlo y tenerlo conmigo, como mi español y todo? Y como creo que era el segundo día algo en mi trabajo, alguien llamó a mi vecina y dijo, no hablo mucho inglés. Y yo de, ¿qué hablo? Y yo de, Spanish. Y yo, oh, perfecto, hablo
¿Listo?
español, entonces podemos hablar. Y desde ahí como puedo encontrar como oportunidades para usar casi semanalmente o más.
Excelente. Me parece buenísimo, buenísimo. Well, how's your family and what did they say when you got back? But something that I heard sometimes happens, like when you go back home, and you have to speak your own language after being speaking another language for 2 years. Sometimes the way you speak your own language is affected a little bit, and you start sounding like weird or saying words in between. Did that happen to you?
I guess in some ways. So it's a little bit of a funny story
Uh-huh.
because even before I went to Argentina and learned Spanish and everything, I already had a slightly different accent than my family, and I'm
Really?
not sure why. Yeah, they have more of like a Texan accent like you would think of in like the movies and stuff, whereas I don't think I have that as much. Instead, I think I have more of just the
I was
Western
about to tell you when
United States.
I was going to tell you when you started the interview and say you're from Texas. I was thinking, you're from Texas. You don't sound like one, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so
okay.
I've had a lot of friends, like I'll
Uh-huh.
be hanging out with a friend and they'll mention I'm from Texas and they'll be on like a phone or something, they'll mention that I'm from Texas to like their family. And I'm like, you don't sound like you're from Texas. I like meet my family. So I didn't have the accent as much before, and then now it's more or less the same of like that English Texas accents that have more of the Western United States, like more like Utah, California kind of vibe.
Right.
But what's interesting is that sometimes when I am like just talking like casually, a phrase or a word will be in Spanish because like we would always practice like, okay, when you know a word, you use it, even if it's you're talking in English, a word you're trying to practice, use it. And so I'll be like, oh yeah, we need to go, do that. But I'll say it, one or two words in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Like,
What would be
and just
some typical words that
Well, so one that was really funny the other day was I was out for a walk with my mom and we saw like a Virgin Mary statue. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, La Virgen Maria." And my mom was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, the Virgin Mary." And just because like in the conversations or uh, well, like every time someone tells me to like do something, like my first instinct is like, "Okay, Dale, like let's go do it." Like and that doesn't make sense here, but it's still fun for
Dale,
me anyways.
saying
Yeah.
dale, like, all right.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
that's a typical one.
yeah, just like really like it's the small little phrases that just kind of come up because I used them so much. I'm trying to think of one that just happened today even, but they happen a lot. And then
Okay.
another thing that's kind of changed is whenever I talk about like church related things, because that's why I was learning Spanish, that was the primary Spanish I used, is that it like sometimes comes first to me in Spanish.
And
Like
that's
someone will
nice. Yeah.
ask like a question about the restoration, and then my first instinct is the Spanish answer, even though they asked me in English.
I know. That's funny. That's
And yeah, and so it'll be like, why is that the one? And so I actually had an opportunity to speak to a congregation in Spanish, because in my area we have a few congregations in Spanish, and I've
Mhm.
kind of been going on a tour visiting all the congregations. And one of them was in Spanish last week, and I got to speak in Spanish, give this talk, and I felt like super fluid. Like I didn't have to write it out word for word. I just like spoke, based on what I thought I needed to talk about. And
Mhm.
I turned around and I gave the same talk in English to a different congregation with the same level of preparation. And I felt like I was stumbling a few more on my words because it just wasn't as natural to talk about that kind of thing in English. I'd never really done so before.
That's crazy. It's like what the
Like two
brain does,
parts.
right? Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's crazy. Um, but well, apparently you're also using your Spanish in at church, you know? Like
Um,
so you've been giving these talks in other congregations.
yeah.
And they assigned you to do that or you wanted to do that?
A little bit of both. So when I was in
Okay.
high school, I don't know how much they have this in Argentina, but in my high school here, we had like a speech and debate team. And so we would like go and normally it was politics. We'd go and we'd talk about like politics and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, in like organized ways. And mine was the one that I did was where it was called extemporaneous speaking. So you would like talk without having much preparation. You just have to know and you just have to talk about something knowledgeably, and I did pretty good at it. And so that was kind of like what I was like known for in my like city. I was
Really?
that and band. Yeah, and so then when I went on my mission and everything and I learned Spanish, that was part of what made it kind of hard, was I felt like I needed to prepare so much more in Spanish, whereas in English, I don't prepare. I just talk. That's what I do.
That's great.
Uh, and then I get back and my stake president was like, well, now you can do it in both languages. So go, would you be willing to do it? And I was like, yeah, I enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
something I really enjoy, getting to talk to people and getting to know them. And so a lot of time I'll go and I'll speak to the main congregation, and then I'll get to talk to like the youth, those who are preparing themselves to serve as well, and get to talk to them individually.
Uh-huh. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. And it helps them and it helps you too, because it's another way to keep your Spanish alive, right?
Exactly.
It would be kind of sad if you, after, so much effort to learn it, you will lose it just because you don't get the chance to practice it. That's not your case, and I'm glad about that. Because you get to use
Yeah,
it
I've got
at
a
church and at work.
I've got a family member who learned Spanish back when they served a mission to Mexico. I don't want to call him out, but before my mission, he told me, once you learn it, don't ever lose it. He said that he didn't use his Spanish and he lost it. And he said he regrets it now because there's so many opportunities that he sees he could have used it.
Absolutely true. What a waste if that happens. So, and sometimes I know that if you don't get chances to actually use it, maybe it's more difficult to make a decision to look for the chances or the opportunities. So it's great if they come to you, right? Such a great
Exactly.
thing, such a great blessing. So good for you that you get to use it in both environments, church,
Mhm.
work, in your life. So that's amazing. Anybody else in your family speak Spanish?
So it's a little complicated. Like I said, my older brother's been practicing Spanish for
Yeah.
school. And then my mom actually works with a lot of people who also speak Spanish.
Uh-huh.
And so she doesn't really speak, but she understands. And
Mm.
so sometimes, like, I'll say something in Spanish and she'll have like 90% understanding of it,
Mm-hmm.
but she can't speak it like almost at all. So it's kind of a
Uh,
weird mixture between us.
well, maybe it's just, you know, you can help her to practice,
Yeah.
to
And that's what I
speak
tell her. So
Spanish.
we gotta practice. You gotta get the
Yeah,
words out now.
of course, and it can be fun. Yes.
Yeah, and
And
I can use your tactics of teaching Spanish language.
exactly, can apply the same techniques and
Exactly.
everything. Yes. Hey, we're almost running out of time, but I appreciate it so very much that you were so willing to do this. I knew it was going to happen eventually, and I'm glad we got to make it. It's been great. It's been an honor for me getting the chance to meet you, talk to you. We even shared some lunches together and everything. And I'm glad that we can continue. We can keep in touch, and maybe we can do more of these things. Um, and if you ever, need help with anything regards Spanish, I'm here to help. And I know I can count on you to help me with questions about English, if I have doubts or things which I always have, lots of questions, lots of doubts. I know that I can count on you for that.
Yep,
So
you
I
can
will
always send
be,
them to me.
yeah, of course, of course. I will be asking you lots of things probably. So thanks again for accepting to have this interview. It had been a while since the last interview I uploaded, so I'm glad that I have another one. I will take some time to finish with the edition and everything, but as long as it's ready, I will let you know so you can watch it and share with your
Perfect.
family if you want.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll be in touch. We'll be talking soon. Okay, but
Mhm.
thank you so very much. I really enjoyed this conversation. You're a great guy. You're very smart.
Well, thank you for having me. And I can only express, some of the intelligence I have. Like I said, that was my biggest struggle, was I just couldn't express myself. I said, but thanks to you, at the very least, I was able to accelerate the pace of learning. And I was able to learn some of those tactics. And then, I've even used those tactics to help other people learn. I remember one time
And
you
you
said,
did.
man, you're using my own teaching on these people.
You did. You did. Lots of people lots of Americans told me about you, that you helped them, or that you even recommended them to join our Saturday sessions of Spanish.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Joshua, thank you so very much. We'll be talking soon. We'll keep in touch, okay? And
Yep.
I
Perfect.
really, really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yep. Thank you for having me, Matthias.
You're
And I
very
hope we
welcome.
can get another one.
Yes, anytime, man, anytime. So thank you so much. Say hi to your family on my behalf, all right? And we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay. Nos vemos.
Nos vemos, cuídate. Chao, chao. Nos vemos.
Ciao.